Welcome to the Rocky and Meisty Show, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are, of course, presented by Juicestool, and we have a very exciting announcement. I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but if you're watching it prior to the release of the website is going to take place 10 p.m. January. What date we are on? Every day sounds January 27th, 10 p.m. Eastern time is when the website will be released with such cool merchandise, t-shirts, sweatshirts. Please go check it out. Juicestool.com, JEWSTOOL.com. It's going to be awesome. We'll obviously post a link in the Twitter. I've already posted it on my account, and we'll continue to update that as well throughout the process. That's going to be amazing. Remember to, of course, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. And by the way, the YouTube page has really been doing well, especially my YouTube short. One of my YouTube shorts got a lot of views. I know people like that. I don't know. Apparently people just like 50-second clips. You can listen to us for 20, 30 minutes. We're very entertaining from beginning to end. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't know why you only want 50 seconds of us. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I released those for a reason. I know that's what people like. You like a combination of things. So do we. So we're going to continue to do that, of course. And remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and follow Juicestool on Twitter for updates for that as well. So let's get started, guys. Of course, AFC Championship. It's championship round. We got, last week I mentioned 7 of the 8 teams in the divisional round were in the championship round in the last 3 years, which is incredible. Not so many new faces. Same thing this year, right? Not too many new faces. All these 3 teams have been in a Super Bowl in the last 3 years, except for the Cincinnati Bengals, the young Cincinnati Bengals, way ahead of schedule, right? 5 wins last year. And all of a sudden, Joe Burrow's come in. He's been healthy, right? He had a knee injury last year, and it wasn't just like a torn ACL. It was one of those knee injuries you weren't necessarily sure if he was going to come back full strength, especially right away. And not only has he come back at full strength, he's been playing great, especially in big moments, earning the title Joe Cool that Joe Montana obviously endorsed back in the 80s. Speaking of Joe Montana, we could have a 49ers-Bengals rematch from 88. Yep. That could be pretty cool as well. I actually watched the replay of that game on YouTube. I know this is what I do with my life. I watch replay football games, but it was very entertaining. Joe Montana went down 16-13, last 2-minute drive, 38 seconds left, got the game-winning touchdown. But here we go. We got Bengals Chiefs. It's going to be a great game. Rematch of Week 17, guys. And in that game, the Bengals were down by 14 points in the fourth quarter. And somehow, it was the fourth quarter, close to the end of the third, and somehow found a way to come back, climb back in the game. Interesting a play calling at the end of it by Taylor, the head coach for the Bengals. We'll discuss that as well, because I really think that's a big factor. What you've seen the last weekend with the Bills and the Chiefs, right? And you saw that the Bengals had 45 seconds left, an opportunity to kick the field goal and take a 3-point lead against the Chiefs in Week 17. And instead, they elected to run down the clock. They went for it on 4th down. They elected to either go for a touchdown and not kick the field goal. We're not going to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes down by 3. And we see from last week that probably was the correct strategy. At the time, I liked it. But a lot of people doubted it. But from last week, we see all 13 seconds is all he needs. So we know how dynamic this Chiefs offense is, Yehuda. Do the Bengals have a chance? They're a young team. They're going up against an explosive offense. Do the Bengals have a chance in the championship round?
Well, I know Bengals fans are going to say that they have a chance because they beat them once, and it was about a month ago in Cincinnati, and they beat them 34-31. But no, I do not think they have a chance in this game unless Houday going to be sitting on them couch. Unless, somehow Patrick Mahomes doesn't play in this game, or he gets injured mid-game or something like that. But if the Chiefs are at full strength and they have all their guys, even if they don't have, Tyrann Mathieu and some guys on defense, they still should be able to win. Their offense is just too explosive. And I keep mentioning this. They have that KD Warriors feel to them. And it's supposed to be different in football. You're not supposed to be able to just flip a switch. You're not supposed to be able to do this for the regular season. You can quote unquote coast because the season is so much shorter than an NBA season. But it just seems like the Chiefs don't care if they're going to end up between the 1 and the 3 seed, that we've only seen them 1 or 2. And then when they make the playoffs, they're just going to turn it on, and they're going to play Chiefs brand football, and they're not going to be stopped. They just dropped 42 points on the best defense in the league. The Bills defense were number 1 DVOA, number 1 yardage, number 1 in scoring. Like they were the best defense, and the Chiefs just absolutely shredded them and made them look foolish. So I don't see a Cincinnati defense that is nowhere near this Bills defense. And I understand that the Bengals offense has been really good, but they're not the Bills offense. The Bills offense is better. Josh Allen is better than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been playing amazingly this year. but
Interesting.
Josh
Yeah,
Allen's
yeah.
definitely better than Joe Burrow.
No, he
Yeah,
is. He is. For now.
could
For
argue
now. For now.
that. Feisty has a different take about Josh Allen soon. We'll hear from that, but I understand that the weapons, the wide receivers may be better for the Bengals, and they definitely have a better running game, but their offense is not on the same level as the Bills, and the Bills couldn't beat Mahomes with 13 seconds left. So I don't see how the Bengals, especially with a weaker offensive line, just got sacked 9 times against the Titans. Even if he wasn't pressured that much, his offensive line is quite a sieve, and I think gave up, top 3 sacks. Burrow was probably the most sacked quarterback because like the Ravens and the Bears were ahead of them, but they had multiple quarterbacks playing. But I think Burrow was probably the most sacked quarterback this year. So I don't see how the Chiefs are going to be able to hang with the Bengals, especially in Kansas City. And I don't know if this is one of those games where the Chiefs run out of fireworks like they did against the Texans and against the Steelers a couple of weeks ago, but I don't see how the Bengals are going to be able to hang with the Chiefs.
You brought up the offensive line. So some interesting statistics over here, right? Because the Bengals have actually, the offensive line itself has played much better than last year. That's not such a high standard. They were the worst offensive line in football, but they've bumped up 5-10 spots in terms of rankings amongst offensive lines in the league, right? Joe Burrow himself, or Bengals quarterbacks overall, right? This year compared to last year, let's call it, because there was obviously 6 other games where other quarterbacks started except for Burrow. Pressured 13 less times this year in one more game, hit 21 less times, and yet sacked 7 more this year, right? Less pressures, less hits, more sacks. Why is that? Joe Burrow is a fantastic player, fantastic talent, can make all the throws. The problem is he holds the ball too long. He tries to do too much. This is something that Patrick Mahomes has over him, right? No quarterback in the league has a bigger no quarterback in the league, more percentage of his pressures have been converted into sacks than Joe Burrow, other than Baker Mayfield. And we all know his tendency to hold the ball and try to do too much, right? So obviously those 2 guys definitely have to work on that. And we know that's what Patrick Mahomes' strength is. It's holding on to the ball, avoiding the sack, evading in the pocket, and he scrambles very efficiently. He's not like overly athletic, but he's just such an efficient scrambler. That's something Joe Burrow is going to have to improve on. So as much as I don't want to give the offensive line of the Bengals so much blame here, like I mentioned, they had 13 pressures, allowed 13 pressures last week against the Titans. 9 of them were converted to sacks. That's an incredible number. They allowed, I think, 15 pressures to the Raiders the week before, but only 4 of them were converted to sacks. So it's not discussed as much, but Joe Burrow was actually under duress more. And you have to blame Joe Burrow a little for that Titans. So as much as credit we're giving to him, this can go back to bite him. Chris Jones is going to be a big matchup nightmare for the Bengals up front because they don't have anyone that can line up with him. So that's going to be a big matchup. Melvin Ingram too, but Chris Jones is going to be a nightmare. I mean, you're going to have to double him. You're going to have to give him the Aaron Donald treatment. That's never good. That's never a good place to be in as an offensive line. Meisty, what do you think about this game? The Bengals got a shot?
No, I have here written down in my pamphlet, I have Bengals 35, Chiefs 30. I'm sorry to say it. Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. They are the hottest team in football right now. You're out here saying that, Mahomes tore apart the defense. More points were scored in the last 2 minutes of that game, or the last 5 minutes of that game, than the rest of the game combined, right? So that was just a crazy ending to it. First of all, the Bills defense definitely had its weaknesses late in the game. You saw clear holes that were just brain farts. So I just personally think that the Bills defense did a good job. The Chiefs were great. Obviously Mahomes played fantastic, but the Bengals are I don't want to say have a hotter offense than Josh Allen's Bills, but they almost do have a hotter offense than Josh Allen's Bills, right? Josh Allen happens to be the reason why the Bills offense is tearing it up. But without Josh Allen, and that team has weaknesses. Obviously, without Joe Burrow, that team has weaknesses. But Josh Allen is that whole team. Joe Burrow can get these little short passes and have his guys do the work. Joe Mixon can do work. There's other pieces that will definitely play a factor into the Bengals. Now, do they have a chance? Yeah, they have. Any team has a chance. The Lions beat the Cardinals. Any team has a chance. But the Bengals, they're just a hot team, and the Chiefs' defense is not that good. So the Bengals should be able to rack up points. The question is, how many times can the Bengals actually stop Mahomes? That's the ultimate question. And I think that the Bengals defense is just they're in that moment where they're just gonna have to step up and play better. Yes, they might be a ranked bad or but it's not about that. It's the AFC Championship game. Everything's off the table. This is the game. This is what you play for. they're going to have to step up their game, and they don't need to make that many stops. First of all, the game's going to be very slow, in my opinion. We're going to see the Bengals moving the ball very slowly, probably run the ball a lot, probably very short passes, just drive the field, keep Mahomes off the field. I mean, that's the key to the game. And the Bengals, need to do that. So that's first of all. Second of all, it's not that many stops. The Bengals should be able to score enough times to be in the game, right? There's no reason why they get blown out this game. Obviously, unless the Chiefs defense comes out like they sometimes do and they can tear it up, fine. But Joe Burrow should be able to score a lot, and the defense should be able to have enough stops on Mahomes to slow him down and not let them win.
Listen, I mean, the Chiefs their defense could get 2 or 3 stops, and then they could score on 5 or 6 possessions and end up winning, 35 or 42 to like 20. Like the Bengals are gonna score at least 3 touchdowns, definitely a couple field goals, but the Chiefs' offense is so overwhelming, and they can turn it on like it's nothing. And I know we have discussed, me, you, and Rocky have discussed that Mahomes hasn't really been hitting on the giant 75-yard one-play touchdowns like Josh Allen did to Gabe Davis that we saw in the AFC Championship. But it doesn't matter if it's one play of 75 yards or if it's 3 plays where there's a couple short passes and then he hits Tyreek Hill over the middle and he takes off for a 60-yard touchdown, or if he hits Kelsey and there's a 40-yard touchdown. So their offense is too explosive. They're even getting some production from their running backs. Jerick McKinnon, CEH is back. Darrell Williams is out last week, but they can get these short passes to McKinnon, like I was saying, and get him a big part of the offense. And even their random role players like Pringle and Robinson make some clutch catches. And I know that the Bengals have much better receivers, and I know that the Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs DC, knows that he's not going to man up on them anymore, especially with Tyrann Mathieu. Oh, he fully practiced on Thursday, so he should be able to play, but they're not going to man up on these guys as much anymore. They're going to play some zone. They're going to make Joe Burrow try to read defenses. We have to remember he's still a rookie and a half. This is his second season. This is his first full season he's ever played. He's still learning, and he's going to hold the ball too long, like Rocky said. Sometimes he holds the ball too long and he takes some sacks that are unnecessary, and he's just going to have pressure in his face. And those 2 or 3 stops that the Chiefs get is going to be enough to help them win the game. And I don't know, it could turn into a blowout because it's one of those random things that the Chiefs just do and they just keep scoring on you. But it could be close, like you say. But I don't see it being close. See it by, at least I said before the lines were announced, I said it's going to be like 7.5 line, and the Vegas is going to try to get you to believe that it's going to be like a 3 to 6 point game. So you'll take the Bengals, and then the Chiefs end up winning by 2 touchdowns. So I don't see any way that it's close. Arrowhead's going to be rocking. They've been there. I think they've hosted AFC Championship now for the past 4 years in a row.
First time ever.
It's insane. Like even when they don't get the 2 seed, even when they don't get the 1 seed this year, they still host. And in 2019, when the Ravens were knocked out, they were at the 1 seed and they still got to host. So I don't see any way that the Bengals have a chance in this game, unless, of course, they do call it, it's any given Sunday for a reason. But if Mahomes is playing and if they have their guys, that the Bengals are going to lose by a couple possessions.
No, something that you mentioned was that's that Mahomes. You lost my train right at the end when you had some other stat that you threw out.
No, I wanted to say.
Talking about the line. I remember talking about the line. Yeah, you heard something. The reason why the Chiefs can do that, the Chiefs could be up by like 4 or 5 points. And you're like, the Bengals are covering. And it'd be like a minute left in the game. But because these Tyreek Hill plays were like, they just like screen it and no one can tackle him. And then even though that they're just trying, literally the Chiefs would be trying to just run the clock out. They by accident.
Accidental.
You were not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So
even if the Chiefs go up, the Bengals have shown, like in week 17, they can come back.
Yeah, they can come back, but they're not coming back in the playoffs. It's not going to happen.
We'll see.
Morty.
No,
Yeah,
so
more.
you're saying that the Bengals aren't even gonna come close. You're saying take the Chiefs line -7
For sure.
for sure. And it
bro.
sounds like from everyone else that we're taking the over also 54.5. I'm hearing multiple touchdowns from everybody here.
It should be. It should be. I mean, whoa! What's the weather in Arrowhead?
Weather in Arrowhead. If you want, you can also take in like an alternative. You can just make it like 50.5. If 54 scares you.
54 is a little high, but I think I could see something like 42-20. So I would take the over on that. And if the Chiefs, this is what it comes out to. If the Chiefs can drop 42 points on the number one offense, they can get into field goal range in 13 seconds, in actually 10 seconds on the number one defense, number one passing defense, number one scoring defense, number one overall defense. They are going to abuse these linebackers and these corners for the Bengals. Eli Apple and Jesse Bates is very good at safety, but Eli Apple and Trey Flowers, these guys are going to get absolutely wrecked by the Chiefs schemes and their playmakers, and they have an amazing run, and I think they are way ahead of schedule. Like Rocky said, they're expected to be contending for the division / getting to 10 wins, let's say, not 8 to 10 wins this year in their rebuild, but they absolutely blew the doors off that and then make it to the AFC Championship. So they are way ahead of schedule. Joe Burrow looks awesome, and he looks like he's going to be an incredibly special player, but Patrick Mahomes is on a different level right now, and the Chiefs are on another level right now, and they're playing so well that I don't think anyone is stopping them. That's a topic for next week for some previews, but I don't think anyone is stopping them at this point.
86% of the cash is going to Cincinnati +7. Just saying. So that's obviously the consensus doesn't agree with that. But I don't know if I would pick that line. I wouldn't touch it personally. I just want to ask you guys a trivia question. Does anyone 54 times Rashad Fenton, the best cornerback on the Chiefs this year by far, one of the best corners in the league, some could argue, when he's been on the field. He's had some injury problems. 55 times he's been targeted. How many touchdowns has he allowed in coverage? Does anyone want to take a guess?
50. He's the best. I'm going to say like 4.
One.
4. What you got, Micey? You're going to say 1. What about you, Morty?
2.5.
The answer is 0.
Oh.
The answer is 0. This man has allowed 8.7 yards per completion. He has lined up wide a lot more frequently than he has lined up in the slot. So we're talking about, yes, will they play zone? Probably, Yehuda. I do agree with you. But they do have a dangerous weapon out there on the outside that a lot of people don't know about. And you could have some safety help with Tyrann Mathieu. Thornhill's been playing pretty well as well this year. You can take away the big play and force T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd to get involved. That can be done, right? T. Higgins had received for over 1,000 yards this year. It was a huge target for them. But that's what the Chiefs, I envision them forcing Joe Burrow into taking the underneath stuff. And he can do it. He's not great at it. Like Patrick Mahomes has sort of had to adjust to doing that this year as well. But if Joe Burrow can take the underneath stuff and not try to do too much, which he does try to do sometimes, as we know with the holding the ball and trying to take those sacks, the Bengals can really move the ball down the field effectively. But Meisty's right. I think it's going to be
are we losing Rocky?
Methodical. Slow-moving game because both these offenses are going to be forward. I'll just some numbers that we discussed it before the podcast, but Patrick Mahomes threw for 378 yards last week against the Bills. 227 of those came after the catch. Just for some comparison, that's about 150 yards before the catch, right? So just for some comparison, Josh Allen, 135 of his 329 passing yards came after the catch. That's nearly 200 yards before the catch, which is a much more significant number. So obviously Josh Allen had a lot more air yards last week than Patrick Mahomes does. And Patrick Mahomes has been doing this the entire year. Tyreek Hill, you look at his stat sheet, 150 receiving yards. 94 of those came after the catch. Obviously, he had the big run where he just, ran past the entire defense at the end of the game. But, a lot of his yardage comes after the catch. His average depth of target is significantly lower than it was last year. He's not catching the ball down the field anymore. You have guys that can, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? If Patrick Mahomes has been able to compensate for that, he's been getting the ball to Travis Kelce. He's just an unbelievable receiver after the catch. He has over 160 yards after the catch this year. He has over 600 yards after the catch this year, over 150 yards to the next closest tight end in terms of yak. Like, it's not even a competition. The guy after the catch, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, these guys can do more damage to the best 1-2 duo in terms of yak in the entire league. So that's what's scary about this Chiefs team, right? The Bengals, if you take away their big play, it hasn't been as efficient this year. If people forget the slump they went through in the middle of the year, the slump really went with Jamar Chase's slump, right? When Jamar Chase wasn't making those big plays, the Bengals weren't as successful on offense. The Chiefs have been able to compensate for that the entire year. Yes, the slump in the beginning of the year was because teams were taking away the big play. But once Patrick Mahomes started to catch on to that, and once he started to take the underneath stuff, and once he started to realize, wow, this man, Tyreek Hill, can outrun the entire defense after the ball's in his hands, and Travis Kelce can break tackles left and right, almost Gronk-esque, right? Like, once he started realizing that, it's like, man, take away the big play. I don't mind. I can get 400 passing yards that you normally had last week, even without the big play. He didn't have any really big plays in terms of air yards last week. Yeah. And yet the Chiefs were moving the ball down the field left and right. And he can scramble for nearly 70 yards last week. That first touchdown drive was all scrambles. So the Chiefs have found so many different ways to win, which is so scary, Yehuda. It's so scary. If you take away the Bengals' first option, I don't know if Joe Burrow, I think he will. I think he'll be smart enough to adjust at some point in his career and take the underneath stuff and make more out of that. Maybe they'll get a guy sort of like Tyreek, not as good as him, but that can.
We've lost Rocky.
We lost Rocky once again.
He was making a really good point at the end there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you're making such a good point.
He's going to come back in a second. And it's going to say it really, really quickly. So everyone has to listen very carefully coming up.
Yeah.
It's going to sound like Friedman talk right here.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals, people forget that Joe Burrow is still really young, like I mentioned before, and the Chiefs will do everything in their power to not let Jamar Chase beat them, and T. Higgins is very good, but most people are more scared of Jamar Chase and trying to mitigate what he does against you, and I'm sure that they'll play some double coverage on him, or they'll zone him up, but like Rocky said, if you force him to hold the ball and you force him to look past his big play guys and the big deep shots, then he's not necessarily going to take those short passes, and he will be forcing some bad sacks and some interceptions. He had some interceptions during the season, and it's not like he was protecting the ball very well, and you can force him into some bad decisions. So Micey, the weather is high of 47 on Sunday, so weather shouldn't be a factor. So we should be able to see them at their full strength. But yeah.
I think that Joe Burrow has started to learn how to trust his secondary receivers, his tight ends. He was very, I mean, obviously his connection with Jamar Chase is next level. It goes back from college.
Yep.
So that's definitely a bonus factor. It's not like, oh, you guys have only been playing each other for this year. No, they've been playing for years. Also, I think, but like I was saying, he started to, trust guys like the Tyler Boyds, the T. Higgins. Yeah, he's trying to trust these guys to make the big play. A lot of young quarterbacks, they have like Lamar Jackson. We see with Lamar, when it comes down to a big play, like he's only going to Mark Andrews for the Ravens in general. Hey, Rocky, welcome back. So these guys need to make other plays. So the fact that he's allowing other players to make big time plays other than his number one receiver in Jamar Chase will help him win this game.
Where did you guys
Rocky, we lost it. You were saying a lot. You were saying
wait. Did I get to my point about? I already said my point about Jamar Chase and the number one weapon, and when you take away Burrow's number one. Okay, so I made my point. That's it, right? That Patrick Mahomes can compensate. But I don't know if you guys heard it. I said that's why I have a difficult time picking the Bengals in this game, just because even if you take away the best option, Patrick Mahomes can compensate, win in so many different ways now. It's a recent thing, right? You don't have this Patrick Mahomes as much. And I think if you look at their seasons in the scope, Joe Burrow has way outplayed Patrick Mahomes this year. Has way outplayed Patrick Mahomes this year. But Mahomes always shows up in big moments. He's played well in the playoffs so far. He's found different ways to win, and he's being able to adjust to what the defenses give him, which is the scary thing. I mean, it's such a shame I missed what you guys responded to my rant.
No, we were agreeing with your point, and Meisty though was saying that I agreed with you, but Meisty was saying that he thinks that Burrow is starting to learn to trust his secondary guys, his Boyd, Uzama, T. Higgins in a way. T. Higgins and Chase are like 1A, 1B with Chase being 1A, but Higgins is definitely the number 2. But yeah, Meisty believes that he's beginning to learn to trust them. But I think in a game like this where all the pressure's on, both of them are very cool under pressure, but he is going to be looking to force it a little too much, in my opinion. And I think that he will make some mistakes. We'll hold on to the ball. Maybe
did you guys
get a pick? Yeah.
Did you guys see the heart rate picture? The stat that came out about
right?
Yeah, what's his name? Patrick Mahomes' heart rate in the huddle when there was 13 seconds to go on the clock. You would assume a guy's heart rate would be like through the roof, right? And they said he was like calm as rocks. He was just, all right, let's do this. Like, and they said like throughout the play, like he just like talking. No, they were discussing about being that cool, where like guys, like he had like at no point was he at like would like a doctor call you like, oh, he's at like a high pressure point, you know, like he even during the play he just does what he's got to do. And so I mean I bet Joe Burrow has the same, you know, mindset maybe and
Joe Cool.
I'm sure, but Tom Brady has it, and these guys and probably a bunch of quarterbacks have it, but it was very cool to see the heart rate monitor thing throughout the play.
Oh yeah, I'm just now looking it up and I see his average heart rate versus somebody a fan's heart rate watching the game, and his max heart rate was 191, but Mahomes' heart rate was like max 144 with the average of like 94.
That's crazy. The fans they're not playing. I mean, technically it's nothing but emotional investment. They really get nothing out of it unless you bet on the game, right? So like, and yet these guys who it's everything for them, it's their job, it's their salary. They're cool as a cucumber. The fans are bugging out, you know, peeing every 20 minutes because they're so nervous. Like literally this is what people have. And these players are just calm. You know, I think they probably do some meditations and some practices with these players because the magnitude and the stage is so big. There's 80,000, 90,000 people screaming at you. You have to hear your coach. You can't hear what he's saying. Joe Burrow said there were 3 or 4 plays last week where he didn't even hear the coach. So like, you know, everyone's screaming and you sort of got to compensate for that and adjust on the fly, and you just can't get nervous. Like there's got to be a lot of mental health practices probably throughout the week. Because how the heck do you stay calm in such a situation? I remember, you know, just playing in high school football. I would get nervous in these situations, and there was no stakes. It was just for fun. But you know, you get nervous. Yeah, the truth is, in the heat of the game, it's not as bad as when you're watching. But for the most part, I wanted to say I agree with Meisty on the secondary part. We got 2 Meisties now. I see 2 Meisties. I don't know about you guys. I do have a lazy eye, so maybe that's why I'm seeing double. But I'm not sure. I agree with Meisty about, you know, Burrow getting the secondary guys involved. He's been definitely been getting better at that. But, you know, he does tend to do too much. That's really what we've discussed, right? Like maybe he will force the ball down the field to Jamar Chase when it's unprecedented. I don't know. Maybe he won't. And I do certainly think if he does, he will get better at that over time. But Patrick Mahomes has mastered it this year. And since that Raiders game, just a switch has been flipped. And now all of a sudden he can just win in any way you give it to him, right? He'll tell you, no problem. Take away the 50-yard out route. I have no problem with. I'll hit my slants over the middle and let my guys make some plays after the catch. So there's no question both guys are going to have to continue, obviously, to adjust on the fly and see what the defense gives them, and adjust. And I heard a very interesting thing this week. Someone said it. I forgot earlier today. The most difficult thing in sports to do is to adjust your game plan during the Super Bowl at halftime.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So that just to adjust in the middle of the season is difficult. We've seen that with Mahomes and Burrow, but to adjust in the middle of the game even more so. So let's see if they can, you know, sort of see what the defense gives them. It might be another offensive shoot. I heard people say it's another offensive shooter. I sort of agree with Meister to be more methodical. It could be a lot of points will be put up on the board. We won't see too many punts per se, but maybe not as many big plays because, you know, Gabe Davis went for over 200 yards.
21-17.
No.
21-17. Let's hear it. What's your score prediction? Oh, that was last
we already said we had 35-30. Bengals over the Chiefs.
What you got, Yehuda?
I'm seeing something like 41-20 or like 44-20, something like that. And both these teams have great special teams, so that shouldn't be an issue. Like we saw it, like we experienced, and we spoke about in other games. But I did want to say real quick. I was looking at I'd flipped it. It was that guy's heart rate. But either way, Mahomes had said his heart rate was low in the huddle pre-snap, and he was in a flow state during that time. So he was spiking when he was scoring touchdowns, and like, let's go. But otherwise he still was very calm right before all the stuff where, after he executes, then he goes crazy. So we know he's really calm under pressure, and he's one of the most clutch quarterbacks already, even only being 4 or 5 years in the league. And so I don't see anyone stopping him. So I think Chiefs should win by 20 points, 21 points.
Interesting. Morty, what you got?
The over.
You got the over on the point. No, you're not going to pick a money line here?
I don't feel. I mean, if I had
you don't-
to, I would probably pick the Chiefs, but I don't love. I mean, if I had to pick a winner, I'd pick the Chiefs, but I wouldn't put money on it.
Yeah.
Easiest money you'll ever make.
I wouldn't. What did you say?
The easiest money you'll ever make.
You're that confident. You're that confident. I'm not.
I
I'm
have
going to
more
go.
confidence. I have more confidence in the Eagles messing up their draft picks.
Well,
Whoa! They have 3 tries.
Bad.
They have
Rough shot.
Strike one.
They're bound
Eagles
to get
catch
one.
crazy.
If they strike out, then they deserve.
Listen.
Man.
It comes down to coaching, like Rocky said, adjusting at halftime in the Super Bowl, like that's the hardest thing to do in sports. But adjusting midseason, and the reason we forget, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the NFL right now. There's no comparison between Andy Reid and Zach Taylor. I don't really think I've seen
Zach Taylor's
no,
Coach of the year.
Bengals fans don't even like Zach Taylor that much, and he's not that good of a coach. And I think not that Burrow's winning in spite of him, and that defense winning in spite of him, but that he's going to be outmatched and outworked by Andy Reid, and there's just no comparison between these two coaches, and that should all come into play 2 ahead on Sunday afternoon.
KC. I'm going to take KC, and I'm going to have the score. Let's think over here. I sort of like 26-21, what the score was before all pandemonium ensued last week. I just like it. But I want to go a couple more points. Maybe let's go 29-24, like something random like that. 29-20. So I'm going to hit the under, but I won't go over under either way. But I mean, I'll hit the over on the +7, but I wouldn't touch that. Just happens to be this is what I think the score is going to be because this sounds good. So we got 3 versus 1 against Meisty. Now I got 5 out of 6 right in the wild card round. I got 3 out of 4 wrong last week. But to be honest, none of us did great, but I did the worst because last week was not very particular. I think Meisty actually went 2-2. Meisty got 2 out of 4, right? Because Meisty got the Rams game. That was a good call. Meisty got the Rams over the Bucks. Man, I told you not to. I'm like, don't pick against Brady, and you still did it. And this is why I don't go on DraftKings.
Another Patrick Mahomes stat that some of you might have seen was that his record when his team win probability is under 5%. He's like 4-1. What is it?
3-1.
3-1. The rest of the NFL since 2018 is 1-38.
Crazy.
That's nuts. Wow. That is nuts. There's some crazy Patrick Mahomes win-loss stats in certain scenarios.
And you know who that other one is?
It's got to be Brady.
Oh.
It's Brady. It's Brady. I would assume it's Brady versus. Oh, it might have been that other crazy game, but I think it's Brady versus the Falcons in the Super Bowl. That's why it's since 2018. They're counting that in there.
You said since 2008 or since 2018?
18.
Well, the Brady Super Bowl was in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, before that.
What, the one against the Falcons?
Yeah.
Is that really that old? Are we really that far away from that year? That's so crazy. Yeah. That's mind-boggling. Wow. Brady's still around.
Remember when the Chiefs went down 24-0 against the Texans a few years ago in the playoffs, and nobody batted an eye? It was like, they're going to come back. It's not a question. And they scored 28 points in the second quarter and literally took a lead before halftime. Like, it was nuts. So obviously the Chiefs can always come back, but the Bengals have proved they can, climb out of a deficit too. So that's what makes this matchup so compelling. It's such a great matchup in Week 17. Obviously, now the Bengals got to go to Kansas City. It's a little different, but it's going to be great. We're going to have another rematch, which we'll discuss, Rams-Niners. It's a 3-match, the third 3-match of the playoffs, guys. So this is pretty exciting. We got a lot of division rivals here. And thank you for joining us for the AFC Championship Preview. And we're going to have a lot of great stuff coming up. Super Bowl weekend, some list, maybe top 5 players in the Super Bowl and some cool stuff. We'll get to that as well, obviously. So it's not just going to be Super Bowl preview, break down a few different things and have some fun podcasts, 10, 15 minutes, quick hitters, nothing crazy, but, something fun. Of course, we're going to add to that. So, of course, remember to check out juicetool.com, going live 10 p.m. January 27th. January 27th, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. And remember to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and follow us, baby, Rocky and Meisty, and all of our handles you'll see on the Rocky and Meisty profile. And everyone, have a wonderful day.